because I feel like I'm learning new things about myself and others. So be thinking about that. And let's see if we can get Alyssa on. Hang on. Huh. There we go. There we go. Um, Linwood Fairfax. This is from British Columbia, Virginia, Columbia. Oh, Detroit. Hey,
Hi,
how are you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm just thinking like we're both. I know where we're going with our challenge today. So anyway,
Mm,
that's a little foreshadowing for
yes,
all of
yes.
you. If you ah, if you're really astute
Oh,
observers, you can maybe be thinking about what our challenge is going to be. But listen, I put out this idea that we were talking about that I think is fascinating, which is what have you learned about yourself and other people during this time? So what do you think you've started learning about yourself or somebody close to you?
yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think there's sort of practical things you learn and then more profound things,
Yes.
So, like, for instance, like a just interesting thing I learned about Jack is how much he loves documentaries about war.
Well,
In fact, I just asked on our Facebook group for suggestions because he's going through these documentaries. um, but which I would just wouldn't have known.
but that basically means he's interested in history. You know what
He
I mean?
loves
So that's
history.
great.
Yes, he loves
Yeah.
history, and he can't get enough. Something I learned about myself that's I guess more profound is that I don't miss going out as much as I thought I would.
I feel exactly the same way. I would have thought that I would be much more, feel much more flat, feel much more cut off than I do. And I'm
Yeah.
surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I thought I would just be going because I think of myself as a people person. I love
Yes, you
socializing.
do.
And I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. I mean, for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah. Well, and you're also one of the reasons you wanted to be a TV writer because you like the being a writer, but in a social environment, whereas like
Yeah,
I'm all by myself. Yeah,
yeah,
so it's interesting.
yeah.
So if you're just joining, I'm Gretchen Rubin. This is Elizabeth Kraft. We're the host of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. And what we're talking about is what have you learned about yourself or other people close to you during this time? Because it's sort of it's such an unusual situation. I think it's revealing things. But as you're putting in your answers, we will remind you today is the last day that you
Yes.
can vote for our podcast, Happier with Gretchen Rubin, for the Webby People's Voice Award. And so click the link in my profile if you cast your vote for us. Huge gold stars to everybody who's voted. For a while, they would actually show you the percentages, but now they've hidden it because they want to raise the suspense.
Yes.
So we don't know if we're in the lead, and we want to be in the lead. So huge gold stars if you voted, and if you haven't voted, we would so appreciate it. And if you vote right now while we're doing this, then you get like double gold star because that's like so exciting that it's actually happening. So here people are, but so the question about what have you learned about yourself? No, you can't vote more than once, but I appreciate the thought. Vote
Yeah.
early and often is my motto, but no, you can't. But I appreciate that.
Someone learned they can make bread. That's fun.
There you go.
I think a lot of people, Gretchen, are learning like us that they're kind of okay not going out as much, but then other
Yeah, so
people definitely miss it.
yeah, someone says I like the slow life. I miss going out. Well, it's interesting. Like Eliza has a couple of friends who are just like beside themselves.
Yeah.
They cannot take it. Like they really, really, really are feeling it. And so you see how this hits different people differently,
Yeah.
just depending on kind of your natural makeup. Somebody says, when confronted with cluttered counters in my kitchen, I really noticed how much this bugs me. Well, I think that's, how about a thumbs up if you feel that too, that you've been sort of have a heightened sense of clutter. Or maybe you have kind of the opposite reaction. Put it in the comments if you feel like, now that we're just here all the time, I don't even notice what's going on. I think sort of both things. It might even be that like in the bedroom, you don't care about like all the clutter, like why are there clothes around, wear the same clothes all the
Mm-hmm.
time. But in the kitchen, it drives you crazy or whatever. One thing I learned about my daughter Eliza, and this I have to say was an extremely pleasant surprise, is so I really clear clutter but I like things tidy, but I'm not so scrupulous about things being like scrubbed clean.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's too much information, but like vacuuming is something that like, it has to be really bad before I feel like vacuuming. But Eliza is very fastidious, and she is cracking the whip. She is making the chore chart every weekend. She's like, what are you going to do now? When are we going to do it? She gets us all doing it. And she does laundry just on her own randomly throughout the week. And this is just like the greatest thing that I've ever discovered in my life.
Yes, that's a good quality in a daughter.
Yes, yes. And I think it's the kind of thing where she might not have realized about herself how important it was to her. Also, because in college, it's like it's so different. But maybe in our house, I don't know for what, or maybe she, like somebody else, she has like a higher sensitivity to it because of everything that's out of control. She feels like she wants to control what's in our apartment. But it's interesting.
Yes. Maybe
Someone says, I miss being employed. I think a lot of people are realizing that and I think a lot of kids are realizing they like school more than they thought too.
Yeah. I will say I've learned that Jack's very good with remote learning. He's very diligent. I think I've mentioned that. And I would not have thought that he would just sit down and be so diligent. So that was a surprise, a nice surprise.
Well, and also it seems like something valuable that Jack learned about himself is that like he likes to like sit down, do it, and be done. I think some people like to space things out, and certain people like to work intensively and then have that free time. And that's a really useful thing to know just about your work pace.
Yes.
Because that's true of adults too. Some people there's kind of marathoners and sprinters. I wrote a blog post about that. I'll put a link to that in the comments. Someone says, I learned I like lots of variety. Since it's not provided by people, I have to create the variety myself. Yeah. Someone says, I'm an introvert and not an ambivert, as I once thought. Oh, that's interesting. I like. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I thought I had learned about Adam during this time, my husband, that he actually misses social life more than he would have thought. But when I asked him about that, he said he doesn't miss socializing as much as he just misses going out. So he likes to be out and about. He likes to walk around a mall, get a massage, go out to dinner. He really misses that more than I do.
Yeah. And he's somebody who would work in a coffee shop. Like he's one of those people that, there's kind of that feeling of being alone in a crowd, which is sort of like it's sort of the quiet. That's one of the things I loved about the Met when I went to the Met every day. It's like, there's that sort of hum of kind of busyness, but nobody's talking to you. You're in this kind of peaceful social place, but no one's talking to you. There is something, and I think that's something that we cannot have right now. That kind of group companionship, the being alone in a crowd, is something that we can't experience. And I think if you want that, then that's probably a kind of loneliness in a way. Is that a kind of or I don't know if it's a loneliness per se, but we did that very special episode about loneliness for the Happier podcast. And we talked about different kinds of loneliness, but maybe that is a kind of loneliness. It's kind of human contact. It's not specific human contact, but it's just like the companionable humankind.
And I think a lot of people who are alone during this time are very lonely. I mean, one of my best friends is in Nairobi by herself. She's very lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are, I'm Gretchen Rubin. This is Elizabeth Kraft. We're the hosts of the Happier with Gretchen Rubin podcast. And we are talking about what is something that you've learned about yourself or the people around you during this time. Who's learned something about a coworker? Because I think, that we do learn things about our coworkers and their work pace and that sort of thing. That's kind of interesting.
It's interesting for me, Gretchen, because we have so many meetings with producers and executives, and they're very specific. They're in these very usually curated offices on studio lots or in Hollywood. And now you're seeing these people at home you know, and sometimes their kids come in and, you know, and it's just, they do seem much more human and approachable in their own homes, dealing with all the things that we're all dealing with. So that's been interesting.
Well, if somebody was saying like, maybe we'll never go back to kind of the same facades that we had, that there's kind of an intimacy or an authenticity. Give us a thumbs up if you think that. If you think that there's something, this is kind of creating a kind of an intimate connection among people that maybe kind of it's accelerating human connection.
I do.
Yeah.
Another thing I've learned is there are some people who are just going to complain.
That what? Say that again, because you were sort of glitching for me.
Sorry. I have learned during this time that there are some people who are going to complain.
Oh, yes.
I might say incessantly. You know, they're just going to complain.
Yes, yes.
And usually it's the same people who've complained in the past, but you just kind of realize like they're just gonna complain, and you know, that's that.
Well, the thing is, like, you know, wherever you go, there you are, and people are bringing themselves to this situation, and so it's like they're not different. And so, you know, they were complaining about, you know, whatever. Well, now it's sort of like they might be saying different things, but it's sort of that same. Oh, this is interesting. Someone said, I've realized that I need to find out what I truly enjoy. I need to identify some new hobbies. Here's something to think about, and give me a thumbs up if this resonates with you. This, I think, is a fascinating question. If you don't know sort of how to have fun, and a lot of adults don't know how to have fun. One thing to think about is, what did you do for fun when you were 10 years old? And can you do something as an adult that is a version of that? So whether you made arts and crafts projects, or you rode your bike in a park with your dog, or what I did as a child was I would Elizabeth, I'm sure you remember this. I would cut pictures out of magazines, and I would copy out my favorite quotations from books, and I would find like a kind of an image that suited that quotation. And so I would copy in the quotation and then illustrate it. And I have books and books and books of this.
And you would do that hours.
I would
blank
come home
books, you called them.
My blank books. I would come home from TV, and for like an hour, I would watch reruns on TV and sit on the floor and do these books. And it was just the great joy of my life. And what do I do now? I like have my Moment of Happiness newsletter where I copy out a quotation, and it used to be on my blog, you know, I would do these and accompany them with photographs. And now I don't do them so regularly on the blog, but I do them in the newsletter, which is way more fun because then I can send them out so that other people can see them, which was the whole idea of like making a book of it. So it's very much a version of the kind of thing that I did as a 10-year-old, but kind of suited. Now I'm sending out an email newsletter. And so it's adapted to my adult self, but it's fun in exactly the way it used to be. If you want to sign up for that newsletter, you can get it at gretchenrubin.com/newsletter. It's called the Moment of Happiness newsletter, because they're all, these quotations I have a bazillion quotations related to everything. These are ones about happiness. What did you do for fun when you were 10 years old, Elizabeth?
Well, I can't remember when I was 10. Yeah, watch TV, which is that tracks. And also, you know, I would like play a lot of make-believe. Like I would pretend I was believe it or not, a divorce lawyer and like divide assets.
Talk about your divorce lawyer. This is the funniest thing you ever did.
I know. I had these gold heels from Mom, and I would put on the gold sandals and a purse she gave me, and I would walk to my desk, which was my desk where I did homework or whatever. And then I would I would have lists of like what Mr. and Mrs. Brown were getting, who was getting the house, the car, the kids.
I mean, I'm surprised you even knew about it. You must have seen like an episode of Dallas or something like that.
I know. It was so funny.
Well, Eleanor, when she was young, this is more like kindergarten, but in first grade, but she did this thing where, and I was like, is she going to grow up and be a mediator or something? Because she would say like, oh, I'll just walk around the classroom, and then like I see people squabbling, and then I just say, hey, like, what's the problem here? You guys need to settle your differences, and I'll talk them through. And I'm very helpful in that way. And I was like, what are you doing? How do you even know to do that? It's like so funny. So I do think it's the kind of thing where like, if you liked fooling around on it with a ukulele when you were 10 years old, maybe you like it now. Maybe you'd like to take up juggling again. Maybe you want to do like I used to do. Remember when I would do magic tricks? I got
Yes.
sets of magic tricks and I would try. I
Yes.
was so bad at it. But I mean, that's the kind of thing that adults do. It's like they get really good at doing
Yeah.
magic and like, I mean, it's
Someone
fun.
says they still like to ride their bike. Yeah, that's
There you
something a
go.
lot of people do
Yeah.
at 10 and at,
Yeah.
40. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to record variety shows on a tape recorder. Well, I forget the name of this is annoying because I forget the name of the man and I forget the name of the book, which I love. So that's very shocking that I can't remember it. But anyway, he was a very, very famous sound designer. He did like The Conversation, which is a wonderful movie if you haven't seen it. And he said that when he was growing up, he used to just like record sounds on a tape recorder, but he never thought about doing it professionally. He's like, that's not a real job. Like I thought I would be an art historian. And then he found out, no, that you can you can turn that into a real job. And so I think a lot of times when we go back to the past, we do see the seeds of something that we would enjoy as an adult.
The other thing that's kind of interesting, Gretch, is I think there's some people who are doing a lot of their hobbies right now, and other people like Sarah, my writing partner, who's doing none of her hobbies because she's so busy just like dealing with school and cooking every meal and cleaning. She spins fiber, I guess, into yarn, and she hasn't done it at all. And she was doing it a lot before, but she just is like exhausted at 9 o'clock. And
I think that's part of what's confusing about this time, because some people are working harder than they ever have before, and some people have been laid off, and some people are like clearing closets, and some people are like, oh my gosh, all I wish that I wish I had time to do that. I'm just putting out fires, or like getting kids into a Zoom class like all day long, and so. I think like we're just all having a very different experience. The essential workers, of course, are like out there on the front lines, which we so appreciate. They're having their own experience. And so here's this random fact that I read. I thought this was really interesting. Give us a thumbs up if you're having very vivid dreams lately, because apparently this is very common. A lot of people are having very vivid dreams, and I think there was a New York Times article about why that is. But what really caught my attention is they said if there's a threat that's very abstract, the mind will turn it into will translate it into a metaphor. And the metaphors that people have been most using: zombies, bugs, and tidal waves. Oh. And I thought, how brilliant are we as a culture? Because each of those is a very good metaphor for what's happening.
Yeah, zombie apocalypse is definitely, a visceral feeling right now.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the challenge for today, we're going to talk about at a little greater length, because it's it's a great challenge. And it was inspired by an episode of Happier in Hollywood that just went live today. I just listened to it. Was it today?
Yeah, today.
Yes, it was today. Yes.
Let me tell everyone, and if you've been watching our Insta, you've heard me mention it. Sarah and I on Happier in Hollywood today talked to Allison Fanger, who's a wonderful costume designer. She does Grace and Frankie. I think she's been nominated 4 times for an Emmy. About what to wear in a Zoom meeting to look good, because they're only seeing this much. How do you pop? What looks good? And she had a few suggestions. One thing she said, which I have not done, is to produce your production design your space. So you really do think about what people are seeing. Like yours is great right now, Gretch. Mine is not good. And but another thing she mentioned was wear a shirt with a collar.
Yes. So show everybody. Yes. And she said, wear a denim shirt. And I don't have a denim shirt, but I realized that I have this blue shirt that's sort of like denim-y.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of, I think she said it's a good color. It's good texture. And so I thought, wow, this is very it's not denim, but it looks like it has the qualities that she was talking about.
Yeah.
Was somebody saying, Liz, I think your blouse is a very good choice.
Thank you.
Because you know what? It's
casual.
It's not too busy, but it has color, but it's not just it's so plain. Yeah, someone says, LOL, mad points for your collared shirts. Yes.
And she, after we talked to her, I ordered 2 denim shirts because I was I need a denim shirt. Yeah. One I got is a Wrangler denim shirt, which she recommended, and I got it at Nordstrom Rack for like $36. So
I got a tip.
Public service announcement.
I bought the same one. I'm like, yeah, sign me up.
But yeah, she said don't wear black, which is, you know, I wear a lot of black, so that's
because I